my name is Attorney Walter Rufnath III. I wanted to go through specifically this Act update. It's from Representative Ilhan Omar, Democrat, Minnesota, sending unconditional payments to people overcoming resistance to Triumph Support Act. Remember the whole $1,200 per month during the whole COVID situation. Other channels are like, it's on its way, it's coming, you're gonna see it tomorrow, wow, all that kind of jazz, and that's not accurate. But we're going to go through this so that, we're going to go section by section through it so that you have a better understanding specifically as to what this act is about. We're going to be following the section by section, specifically from, I believe it's directly from her website, right here, the Support Act. Let's go through it. Short title, Sending Unconditional Payments to People Overcoming Resistance to Triumph Act, or the Support Act of 2021. Office of Guaranteed Income Programs. The Treasury will establish the Office of Guaranteed Income Programs, OGIP, to be responsible for assisting in the coordination and implementation of a grant program to fund local guaranteed income pilots, Title I, and a National Guaranteed Income Program to send monthly cash payments to low to middle income individuals, Title II. That's like your retirement SSDI title. All right, so what they're saying here is they want to establish a new office. And the new office in the Treasury will be about figuring out whether the pilot programs, figuring out whether they can even do a UBI system. Okay, to build up this brand new office and successfully execute its duties, the Treasury Secretary will work with a wide range of federal agencies to give this office the data access and authority it needs to oversee guaranteed income programming on the federal level. So what they're saying there is, this agency will be able to see into the IRS, we'll be able to see into the SSA, we'll be able to see into the Mint, we'll be able to see into all these other agencies so that it can begin the process of figuring out whether UBI is even something that could potentially work in the United States. The Secretary of Treasury will appoint a director to head OGIP, who will also be responsible for appointing 10 members to the National Economic Advisory Council, NEAC, under this new office. So that's a big thing. They're adding a bunch of executives and even more seats for basically this National Economic Advisory Council. So that's a big item ticket right there. And 10 members, appointing 10 members, that's some choices right there. NEAC will offer feedback to Treasury on guaranteed income programs. Guaranteed income programs is just another way of saying UBI. And the council will be composed of the director and a representative each from nonprofit civil rights groups, organized labor, academic research, community organizations, community development, financial institutions, and people receiving this cash assistance. Let's read through those again, that's important. And the council will be composed of the director and a representative each from nonprofit civil rights groups. And a representative each from nonprofit civil rights groups. So now the council will be comprised not only of government people, but nonprofit leaders. I see a lot of potential there for greatness. I also see a lot of potential there for fraud. Organized labor, academic research, community organizations, community development, financial institutions, and people receiving this cash assistance. Well, the whole thing's a pilot. I mean, they're trying to figure out how to make it work. The director with the NEAC will report annually to Congress on recommendations relating to income policies and regulations of the Office of Guaranteed Income Programs. Yeah, okay, so the head person reports to the Congress, and Congress will then figure things out. Title I, Local Guaranteed Income Pilots. Income Pilots. The Secretary of the Treasury with the Director of OGIP will establish a 5-year grant program to support local guaranteed income pilots. So they're going to create a grant. It's going to be a 5-year grant program. That grant program will create essentially UBI, but in this thing we're calling it Guaranteed Income Pilots. Grants will be made to the only eligible entities of local governments and communities development financial institutions, CDFIs, to cover all the costs of delivering cash assistance to any residents in each given area. So this is interesting because we're seeing mass funding going in pilot programs to people. Let's figure out what they want to, restrict and allow and etc. But I do see a potential for a lot of fraud here. Cash payments cannot be less than $50 per individual. So there's a bottom line. It's got to be more than $50. Payments must be made on a recurring basis, bi-weekly, monthly, or quarterly. That's how often they're going to receive them. Usually bi-weekly is the better option because people that need money, they spend money, so they need, if you give them all in the beginning of the month, You know what happens. They can't afford the end of the month. Treasury Secretary and OGIP Director cannot select less than 500 eligible entities for the program. So you got to have at least 500 entities. Giving grant priority to local governments that have never established a cash payments pilot or carried out such pilots in low-income areas. Oh, that's interesting. Giving grant priority to local governments that have never established a cash payments pilot or carried out such pilots in low-income areas. Well, I can see why. They want to, obviously the expectation is if there's no program in that area, then probably people are struggling the most in that area. I'm surprised at this. I kind of expected them to just go straight to the counties and local governments that already were set up for something like this. CDFIs that are minority owned or serving low-income areas, you got to take that minority owned. You got to take that out. It has to be equal because this is going to come up on constitutional grounds and it will get kicked out. It will get kicked out because it is unconstitutional to create laws that are specific to the promotion of minorities. We're moving as a Supreme Court significantly away from that. The greatest abuse in this country that ever occurred with that was in academia, specifically when I was going through academia and how they abused student loans. It put more student loans on me than anybody else. White females didn't have it as bad. All the other minorities didn't have it as bad. I had it the absolute worst, which is why my student loans are unpayable. They're just too high. CDFIs that are minority-owned or serving low-income areas or local governments and CDFIs whose pilots are testing universality by not explicitly targeting such cash payments. Universality. I'll have to look up specifically how they're pronouncing that one. Universality. I don't know. I haven't seen that word used ever up to this point. Usually you see universally, but not that. By not explicitly targeting such cash payments. The only thing I don't like here is minority owned. You got to take that out. It's just unconstitutional. The Supreme Court would kick it out. The color of your skin does not dictate your status of poverty. Okay, it doesn't. It's the culture, it's your education, it's how your parents raised you. Poverty is not based on the color of your skin. Okay, I know more white people that are poor than any other race. True, there are more white people in America. Therefore, it's easier for there to be more white people that are in poverty or chronically homeless. But the bottom line is, race has nothing to do with poverty. Culture, how you were raised, education does. Oh, I disagree. Fine, you can disagree. But at some point, you got to realize the more you keep going after the identity of saying, oh, as a minority, I can't do certain things, it actually hurts that group of people with that color skin. The sooner you get away from that, the better you're going to do. As a group, that's just simple base. I mean, everybody, if you grew up on a farm, you know that. If you want people to do better, you push them to work harder. They want to slough off and relax and say, well, we need to help this group. No, that's not how you get leaders. That's how you get people relaxing. Okay? And that's not what this is about. This is about helping those individuals that are not able to function at a higher level to do better things. Okay? This is not about people who just want to relax based on the color of their skin. This is about helping people with new UBI-based programs to get to the next level so that they can have a higher education, more money to be able to rent a place, a better food source, etc., to be able to succeed more, and then their future generations to succeed more. It should not be for minorities only. It should be across the board because color of your skin does not represent status financially. The cash payments made under these pilots to individuals will not be taken into account. And there's a cutoff sentence there. Let's see, it's not on the next one. Treasury Secretary and OGIP can select up to 3 external partners to assist them with the design, administration, and evaluation of the grant programs. You know that there's going to be some fraud stuff there because you know how this stuff always comes down where, oh, we sought 3 partners and one of them, that company is related to Jerry's wife and that company is related to Cindy's husband, and yada yada. You know that stuff always comes up. Maybe there won't be, but you know how this game is played. Such partners will be primarily responsible for collecting and recording the data from eligible entities and individuals of the pilots. I doubt that. I doubt that it will only be primarily responsible for the collecting and recording of the data from eligible entities and individuals of the pilots. I mean, the government collects data all day long. Why wouldn't the government just do this? Well, we could potentially have... Why would they need 3 external partners to assist them? I can see the design thing, and I get that. But why say 3? What's the background? What's the premise? What's the reason for 3? Is it just the number they came up with? Maybe it is. The external partners must have a track record of study or implementing cash transfers, executing. So before you have, now let's read this again. The external partners must have a track record of study or implementing cash transfers, executing mixed method experiments, holding ethical research designs. That's interesting. So they're saying these partners have to have a background in it, but the governments at the local level do not. They don't want them to have that. So I guess these partners, these three external partners, are supposed to be like the thing that sets up the local governments. Otherwise, why would you need them? Cannot be a politically active campaigning 501c3 org. Okay, cool. Treasury Secretary, OGIP Director, and external partners will form a task force to study the results of the guaranteed income pilots via information gathering of the demographic data of recipients and evaluative evidence based on analysis and economic impacts of the pilots. Okay, let's see. We'll form a task force to study the results of the guaranteed income pilots. So basically, we have a group studying these groups, and then three external partners to help set up the local governments. And then basically they're all going to be reviewed by the OGIP director. All right, the task force will publish an interim report of this grant program no more than 2 years after the initial cash payments are made. Why not do it every year? Reporting should include the number of eligible individuals receiving this cash assistance, disaggregated by race and ethnicity, gender, disability status, income and assets, housing status, family composition, employment type, and zip code. So basically, they're trying to figure out exactly who this is going to help the most, who's suffering the most, and they're going to go ahead and go through all the details of that. Okay. I like how they use the word disaggregated there, because the word that they would traditionally use is now faux pas. Just think about that. The task force will finalize a final report of this grant program, no more than 1 year after it's ended. Okay, so good. So they got a report coming out at the end of it. Task force will finalize a final report. So after 1 year, you're going to get a report. Reporting will include analysis on the financial outcomes, health, and economic well-being of the recipients of this assistance, comparing potential benefits to the cost of poverty, income volatility, and other worse outcomes without such assistance. All right, so Canada did one of these programs. The outcome wasn't so bad. They did use government funding, though, with some of those people, from what I remember reading, on drug abuse. They were using it for narcotics, illegal narcotics. So I'm hopefully they'll put something in there that limits these individuals as to how they can spend the money, so that it does not end up with, the guy driving the C300 distributing crack. As much non-sensitive data as possible from both of these reports will be made publicly available in a quick manner. That's always seemingly the most difficult part of the government, to actually meet the standard of giving us the information and what happened. And, when these governments come out with this stuff, there always tends to be a little bit of a spin that I've noticed with how they write it up. But they want it to be a success, and they want it to continue. They won't get additional funding if they don't. Treasury Secretary with the OGIP Director will be able to issue any rules and guidance necessary to carry out this bill, including the compliance and reporting requirements. Definitions for federal poverty line, low-income geographic area, persistent poverty country, unit of general local government, community development, financial institution, minority-owned, minority. $500 million shall be appropriated for each fiscal year of 2023 through 2027, in total $2.5 billion authorized for the entire program. That's $500 million per year for, what was it, not less than 50? What was it, 50 people? It's got to have at least 500 eligible entities for the program. Cannot select less than 500. So, just to make things clear, that if you only did the minimum amount of recipients, each recipient would get $1 million. Maybe you set the minimum at like 5,000 people. Just a suggestion. Title II, National Guaranteed Income, because, this could be used as a program to help out family members of politicians who essentially, could potentially get a handout, and all of a sudden, here's $1 million, National Guarantee, I doubt it's going to be taxed. At least with the initial, Establishment of the Guaranteed Income Tax Credit. This new tax credit will have a maximum amount of $14,400 per year, or $1,200 per month for each eligible single adult household, or $28,800 per year, $2,400 per month for each eligible 2-adult household. So here's that whole thing that you see all these other YouTube channels going like, wow, it's guaranteed $1,200 a month for you. Well, remember, there's a lot of, you got to meet all the requirements. Dependent children under the age of 18 will be eligible for a maximum half amount, i.e. $7,200 per year, $600 per month. No phase-ins for payments, meaning no one needs earned income to receive the credit. Yeah, I mean, that would kind of defeat the purpose of it. Single filing adults with adjusted gross income AGI of 0 to 75,000, while jointly filing adults with income of 0 to 150,000 will be eligible for the maximum amount. After these, maximum threshold payments will be gradually phased out at a rate of $5 for every $100 of additional income, phasing out completely at $100,000. Single AGI 200,000, joint AGI, and 150,000 head of household AGI. Okay, so yeah, we already got that. To provide an example of this formula with dependents, a married joint filing couple with 2 children would phase out completely around $220,000. Since this phase-out structure mirrors the CARES Act, there's no dependent cap. I still don't think that $75,000 is high enough. I think that should be $100,000, but, here we go. Payments will be automatically adjusted for inflation, i.e. cost of living. There's your COLA section. An eligible individual for purposes under this bill will be a person who is 18 years or older, who has resided in the United States for more than a year and a half, who didn't receive exemptions, deductions as a dependent, and didn't claim tax benefits from living abroad. A year and a half is not acceptable. They should have been a citizen for at least 5 years. This program should not be just to go ahead and fund all the new immigrants that have come into this country that have been here for a year and a half. When this passes, all the immigrants that are coming in right now, if it passes, will then be able to tap into this. You see the problem? It wouldn't be going to the American people, it would be going to the recently created American people. And in my opinion, I would rather see those who have been here for at least 5 years taking the benefit of it. Although, obviously, the immigrants that are coming into this country, any handout they can get helps them because they don't have a strong root system, such as a lot of people who have some place to sleep, some place to eat, etc. Non-resident individuals will not be eligible for payments unless they are treated as a resident of the United States for taxable purposes. Why would you ever allow non-residents to be able to tap into $1,200 a month? There will be identification requirements of at least an individual taxpayer identification number, ITIN, or the ITIN of an individual's spouse. Treasury Secretary will have no more than 1 year after sending the first round of payments to make regularly advance payments of this credit each month and notify eligible individuals of the availability of recurring payments. These payments will not count as income to affect eligibility of other federal assistance. All right, now that's the most important sentence of this page right there. These payments will not count as income to affect eligibility of other federal assistance. It's not going to hurt your SSDI benefits. It's not going to hurt your retirement benefits. It's not going to hurt your SSI benefits. It's not going to hurt your federal benefits. Doesn't say state, but federal benefits, okay? To make sure such payments will be refunded and dispersed in a timely manner, the Treasury Secretary shall use tax return information, alternative information from any relevant federal and state agencies, right? So they can tap into anything to figure out who, what, when, and where you are. Sharing and coordination of recipient data will be allowed among the Treasury Secretary and the OGIP Director with the Department of HUD, HHS, Veteran Affairs, Agriculture, the IRS, and the SSA, and other federal agencies for the purposes of building databases for delivering payment eligible individual. For delivering payments eligible individuals. They made a mistake here. Let me read this sentence again. And other federal agencies for the purposes of building databases for delivering payments to eligible individuals or delivering a payment to an eligible individual. So they should have put payments to eligible individuals. How do they screw this up when they're this high up the ladder? I mean, come on now. Payments should be sent first via electronic direct deposit and online payment systems, and then through other means such as mail paper checks and store value cards, e.g. Direct Express card, the little green card that comes from California. That's a debit card. The next section establishes public banking and online digital infrastructure, but only gradually over 5 years, so the aforementioned traditional delivery mechanisms will be prioritized for sending such payments initially. So what they're saying is they want to create a digital federal currency. That's too much for this one act. That needs to be its own act. that needs to be split off from this, okay? Monthly payments will be made not more than a year after full enactment in 2027. Payments will be protected from interest fees, federal debt reductions, federal debt reductions, offsets, and garnishments from financial institutions. So you're getting the money. If you owe money, they can't even take the money away from you. Wow. It appears that death and taxes would not be the only things that are sure in your life now, because taxes might not apply to this. Territories and insular possessions will be eligible for this cash payment. Territories and insular possessions, will be eligible for this cash payment program, similar to the structure of the CARES Act Economic Impact Payments (EIP). So they're saying, the islands above Hawaii, U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, they'll still be able to tap into this. The IRS will be responsible for holding, and why we don't make them states, The IRS will be responsible for holding a public awareness campaign similar to the CARES Act. Similar to CARES. They should have put the CARES Act there. I don't know, it's interesting. Like for so many people working on this, this document should be pretty much perfect. The Treasury Secretary with the OGIP Director will be able to issue regulations and guidance to carry out this bill to ensure there are not duplicative payments to taxpayers. Or you could just use duplicate payments. But anyways, they need to have a system where they're making sure people are getting the right amount, because when the CARES Act came out and all these other things, there was so much fraud that occurred. It was so much fraud that I can't even access an SBA loan. They keep coming out with all these random things to say, well, hey, you can't get this loan because you have back due child support payments. I don't have a child. My kids are my dogs. So I still have to follow up with them. But the bottom line is the SBA, apparently they must have had fraud or something on my account by somebody trying to tap into it, because somewhere down the line they think that I have child support payments that are due. I don't have any kids. Never had any kids. Never adopted any kids. Added technical amendments to have this new credit conform with the tax code. This section will take into full effect on January 1st, 2028, giving Treasury some more time to construct and organize this program after the end of Title I. Title III, creation of Fed accounts. All right, this has no business being in this act. It has no business being in this act. Integration of Fed accounts with postal banks. Definition for digital dollars, Fed account, pass-through Fed account, member bank, postal retail facility. Federal Reserve banks will be authorized to establish Fed accounts, an online no-fee personal bank account for opting individuals receiving guaranteed income tax credit payments for interested in holding checking savings accounts. Fed accounts will not be subject to any account fees such as overdraft fees, minimum or maximum balances, or exuberant interest rates. Fed accounts will have access to a wide array of traditional financial services, including debit card issuance, online account access, automatic bill pay, mobile banking, customer service. Banks are not going to like this, because when the federal government comes out with a bank system, the banking system that is not the federal government is going to have to then compete with that. Fed accounts will be provided in conjunction with the establishment of integrated physical locations at postal banks and ATMs. So basically, post offices, USPS, will have ATMs in them now. Fed accounts will center consumer protections by protecting account holders against fraud and other security breaches, not closing accounts only based off of profitability concerns, and following Privacy Bank Secrecy Act and other regulations promulgated by the Federal Reserve to offer adequate services in comparison to the private sector. Like I said, in competition with the private sector bank system. Member banks, state non-member banks, and credit unions will be required to offer pass-through Fed accounts with the same quality and access to services Fed accounts through Federal Reserve banks. So now they're going to make banks do a bunch of free work for them. This is going to go over super well. Postal banks and member banks with assets under $10 billion will be reimbursed quarterly for operational costs of providing Fed accounts. So I guess if a bank is less than $10 billion, they will quarterly, for operational costs of providing Fed accounts, reimburse them. This section be required to take into effective no later than January 1st, 2027. Honestly, who edited this? This section will be required to take into effect no later than January 1st, 2027. Okay, so actually, I first read this, and I fixed it, and I read it again, and I realized it didn't make sense. I'm going to read it word for word here. I don't know why Rep. Ilhan Omar does not have a team of legal people that can edit this thing and write it without errors. I don't know how the heck this thing got posted to the website with it still having this many errors in it, but I'll read it again. This section will be required to take into effect no later than January 1st, 2027. That's not a sentence. This section will take, well, right here. It's the bullet pointed one. Read it for yourself. How does this get published? I mean, yeah, like you would expect. It's the bold one. You would expect this to be like, perfect. This section will be required to take into effect no later than January 1st, 2027. This section will be required to take effect no later than January 1st, 2027. That's what it should have said. That's the way I first read it. Giving Treasury and Federal Reserve some time to offer and promote Fed accounts. There will be annual reporting by the Comptroller General in consultation with the Treasury and OGIP to inform Congress on the demographics, account type use, and number of participants using Fed accounts and postal banking service. There is a lot wrong with what's going on here. First thing of concern is, how do people choose which people are going to get money? This $1,200, system, this whole, $500 million set aside system. Who's going to pick these people? Right? I mean, who's going to really pick these people at the end of the day? I'm going to look through the actual act language at some point when I get free time, which is never, but I'm going to look through the actual act language and hopefully be able to tell you guys a little bit more about it. We've seen similar legislation from Rashida Tlaib. We've seen it from AOC coming out with some things or some of this. This is a more detailed one than what I've seen from some of these other individuals. So this is interesting. This is kind of like, it's almost like they, as a group of underclass Democrats, they're just kind of like rotating through them with releasing something, and they just keep adding on it and working on it. And then the next person gets to release it, and then the next person gets to release it. I think they're planning on, being the group that represents the future of the Democratic political party. And they're doing this by kind of like the people who are part of the Friends show, negotiating how they're going to, become the superstars of the Democratic Party. So what's interesting is that they keep rotating through this stuff. One will make a law, or one will make a bill, another one will take the bill language and make it even more detailed and more detailed and more detailed. They'll just release it through each person in that little inner circle. Interesting. Very interesting. All right. I see a lot of issues with this. Who chooses what? Integrating nonprofits. What their purpose, overall agenda is going to be. How do they get chosen? I see a lot of issues with the whole Fed coin thing. That shouldn't be part of this. It should have nothing to do with this. If you're going to make a completely different act and spend the time to outline it completely. I see a lot of issues with this. I do not foresee this thing passing in its current form, obviously, without further details, and I'll go through those details in the actual write-up as to what the bill language is. But, for you guys sitting back going, $1,200 guaranteed per month, wow! They certainly did tack on a lot more information there than just $1,200 a month. Anyways, guys, my name is Attorney Walter, if not the third, I'm with Disability Resolution PA. Although I want to say one thing, though. UBI isn't a horribly terrible idea. There are individuals that need a system to get them... Okay. The most important thing to a homeless person to be able to get a job is a shower. Yeah, food, of course. But the thing that most people don't realize is it's a shower. To be able to look good, to go to the job, to get the job. The most important thing for a low-income person to be able to go ahead and keep going up is education and money to be able to go ahead and get that education and have a place to stay and continue to work while you're doing all that. This is kind of like one of those programs that would help bridge the gap to get people out of being here. And I think that's important. What's weird about it to me is that you would think Republicans would be coming out with like a bridging program to help the low income and the poor get up here to the middle class. Because the Republicans are like pushing the middle class now. It used to be they were pushing the rich and the wealthy and the blah, blah, blah. But now the Republicans are all about the middle class. So it's kind of weird to see the Democrats coming out with the system Although it's not weird, because Democrats have always been about promoting human rights, human interests, and getting essentially the homeless and the low income and the chronically homeless to a better spot. But it's weird that you don't see more of this from the Republicans. You would think, like, because Republicans are all about making the middle class to the wealthy, and the wealthy to the whatever. It's interesting. It's just interesting. It makes you think. You know, the agendas of this whole thing. You know, you get to see when you start to read all the little bills that they come out with. They're never going to pass the way they are, but you get to kind of see what their hopes and dreams are. And it's just interesting. It's just interesting. I would expect something like this. Well, maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I wouldn't. I don't know. You guys let me know what your thoughts are. Remember, like, subscribe, leave 5 stars. I'll catch you a little bit later. I go live 8 to 10 every Thursday on YouTube, Eastern Standard Time, Disability Law Questions. I'll catch you a little bit later, and I hope all is well. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.